Hello and welcome to another episode of the Grunge Bible Podcast. My name is Ethan Shalloway and I'm joined by Chris Salona. This is episode 86 coming out mid-November.
Yeah, November the 14th coming out.
And
Halfway
we are
point.
pumped up. And I have one question for you, Chris. How the hell are you?
I'm good. You know, it's funny. Each week we find ourselves here in the same spot every week. It's kind of crazy how this happens, you know. It's just
like Paul Rudd. Who would have thought?
Yeah, who would have
Not me.
thought? Yeah, we're rolling along. This is the first full year of the podcast. We're almost done. It's kind of wild, and we've been knocking episodes out ahead of time too. We've done some behind the scenes work.
Ahead.
Yeah, we're ahead. It feels great to be ahead. I don't have any complaints.
There's a schedule involved for the future. We have some we're kind of firing right now at all cylinders.
Oh yeah, we are. But this, like we were talking about before we came on, it's not a big deal. It's just the way things go. So we're happy to keep things going the way they go. So overall,
normalizing.
Exactly. It's all simple. I'm doing all right. I can't really complain. Midweek here, catching a recording session with you. And how are you? How are we doing?
I'm doing well. It is still pretty warm here in Alabama. This week has been warm. I was going to ask what it's like there. Is it cold yet?
Yeah, it's starting to get cold. Like overnight, it's probably around freezing in the vicinity. So haven't quite had to scrape off the car in the morning, but those days are on their way. So and, you know, it's like we said, it's not a big deal.
Yep, the time we moved the clocks back.
Yeah,
I saw a funny meme. It was like, trade, you get 1 extra hour of sleep, and now the sun sets at 4, and you get really sad.
Yeah, man, it sucks.
What a trade-off.
I hate this shit. Yeah, what a deal. What a lineup.
What a deal. It's like, you get this, this.
And we don't have a choice. So it's just one of those things too. It's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
We just have to go with it.
That's the motto right now. There's a lot of things in life that happen that, you know, can be made a big deal, but like you can also make it into not a big deal.
Well, that's the thing. People love making a big deal about everything. And
people
some
love
things
making a big
some things
deal.
are just not as big of a deal as they can be. You know, in simpler times or in older times, I could have got on here when you asked me how I'm doing. I could have gone into this whole thing about how something's going on, but you know what?
There's plenty of things you can point to at any moment.
Exactly. I mean, there's scapegoats all over the place.
There's
at the end of the day, it's really just not a big deal. I mean, we have stuff we have to do, and we're doing it. And this is one of those things that we have to do, and we want to do. You know, so it's that perfect little combination. And I want to do this right now. This is good.
Hell yeah, me too, man. I'm right there with you, and let's cut over to the reason why we're doing it. It's the Patreons.
Exactly.
Because, you know, we wouldn't do it without them. And honestly, the more that I say it and verbalize it, like being a part of the support is really not a big deal. Like, $2. I mean, it's another thing. Like $5 a week, $10 or $10 a month, $5.
Right. It's one of those things. If you sign, like, you're gonna forget about it by dinner time. Like, it's just something that you do.
I remember when I first signed up for Spotify and like, you know, it's $15 a month or whatever, but like, it's not a big deal. Like I need the music, you know,
exactly.
So I'm paying, we're probably everybody out there is fucking paying $15 to Spotify
we're all
each
paying
week.
money for something.
Everybody's paying for Spotify to listen to the music. I mean, just do the same thing, but for us.
Yeah, exactly. Just pretend that the Grunge Bible podcast is like an add-on for Spotify, or fuck it, it's a part of your mortgage or something. I mean, you know, what's an extra couple of bucks for your mortgage?
Act like your rent is another $10 more a month.
Yeah, you wouldn't. You know, it wouldn't bother
what are
you.
Doing? Yeah, hey, your landlord tells you rent goes up $50. What are you gonna do?
Right,
it's nothing. Am I gonna move out? Maybe.
What can you do? You know, if you're fortunate enough, and you know, hopefully a lot of us are. So, I mean, yeah, let's keep this going.
What's a subscription that you have that probably could have canceled or should have canceled, but like it's also not a big deal?
This is great that you asked me this, because there's one that's at the top of my mind. I have I think it's a PlayStation 4. That's not the new one. It's like the one.
I didn't even know you had a video game.
Exactly. So I have one, and particularly in the winter when, you know, there's not as much to do outside. I sometimes I'll play video games, and I like to play with my brother. We play some video games together here and there, and you know, cut up, and it's all good, you know. But PlayStation, they charge you like It's like $25 for like 3 months, and I have it auto set up. I haven't played since probably April, and every single time that charge comes out of my account, I'm like, shit, I have to cancel that. But then it's like I gotta go on the website. I have to remember what my login information is, and they always give me the notification like when I'm out busy doing something. Of course. And I'm not gonna stop at the gym and be like, let me cancel my PlayStation member. But that's how they get me. Like I don't need that. I haven't used it, and I could probably use the $25 elsewhere. So. Right. But it's just one of those things you always forget about it until the next time. But maybe after this episode, I'll cancel it.
And I don't know if that's like encouraging people to sign up because maybe they'll forget about their.
But here's the good thing: like you can't forget about us. We're here every Monday. We're here all the time.
And they're using it exactly.
So. And hopefully, not only are we always here, hopefully they're always using it, but they're always using it because they enjoy it. I mean, we deliver. That's the trifecta. We deliver every Monday. We're there.
We're there.
What else can you say? Who else can you say that about? And say that about us.
Yeah. Absolutely. So without further ado, Chris, let's hear the top level.
Yeah. Well, actually, before we hear the top level, we have some new additions that we got a couple of weeks ago. But
I couldn't tell if we had brought up.
Yeah, I don't believe we have.
We're a little ahead.
So we have a new $2 member. So I would love to thank at this time. I'd like to thank Ben Gilbert for for anteing up here a little bit and getting in the mix here. Ben, it means a lot. Really, really stoked that you're here and really appreciative of your support. Also, we have a $5 tier, a new arrival there. We would like to thank Prebin for your support. And we've talked with them before. I think they sent us an email, and they like to listen to the Grunge Bible podcast while going on walks with their newborn child in the stroller, which that's probably the most wholesome thing that I've ever heard about this podcast is that, our friend over there, is walking around spending time with their newborn child, listening to us shit on Guns N' Roses or talk about Mudhoney or whatever. That's pretty good.
So basically, why we do it. I mean, we promote growth.
Exactly.
At times.
We're propagating the next generation.
Yeah. So,
we're not actually. We're not fathering large swaths of children, but we're encouraging family. This is a family show.
So that's amazing.
That's pretty good. I'm happy about that.
I mean, a lot of people give, and Ben, and what was the other one?
Prebin, yeah.
Prebin, incredible. I love it.
Yeah, me too. I love that. And as we mentioned earlier, we do have a strong contingent of the top level supporters who are the people underneath the large Atlas stone that is the Grunge Bible podcast, holding it all up together. So now, in new and improved, mostly alphabetical order, I'm happy to list the following names.
Give it to us alphabetically. Yeah,
we have to. So this is the first time I've rewritten the list in a while. So we're gonna get it to you, in alphabetical format. So I would like to thank Alex Long, Alexis Shannon, Black Hole Sean, The Blue Owl, Brother Nature, Captain Hightop, Kara K, Doug Endy, Eddie Vedder got me through my second divorce, Faith Bittner, Fresh Tendonitis, Fuck Soup, Granny Grunge, Jade Mercado, Jamie Lynn, Carlene Solona, Chris LSMS, Number One Fan from Australia, Laura Nyreen, Marianne, Millie, Nikki Six, Rachel Corning, Seattle 4 Fanboy from New Jersey, Shoe the Shoeless, and What the Fuck's Up Denny's. So thanks, as always, to those individuals. This is why we can keep rolling it for 86 episodes, and that's why we can talk about Rage Against the Machine and share it with the world.
Exactly, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. And, I think that we talked about how we wanted to do this, and we haven't done a Rage episode before, so...
Yeah. We've teased it before. I'm sure.
We've talked about Audio Slave. Yeah, we've talked about Audio Slave, and we've talked about a few different things. So today we're just gonna kind of go and do like an overview, the best, a little bit, not quite go deep into any of the albums or anything like that, and just talk about what we think of the band. Because we're also not historians in the way, so we're gonna
everybody knows we weren't there, so apparently all we do. You just go on Wikipedia and regurgitate.
All we have is Wikipedia here.
That's it. We don't have firsthand experiences. We weren't there for the Battle of LA or Renegades or Evil Empire, but we were there for Wikipedia.
And we both listened to them plenty. So
that's the thing. Like, why it shouldn't disqualify you because you weren't, born at the time. We listened to it and we have a connection just the same as people in their 40s that were there. So, we're happy to have
I understand the argument, but we got a job to do here.
So here's the thing before we get into this, because I'm a little upset about this now again.
Oh, shit, here we go.
20 years from now, Ethan, whichever, like Petey, for example, like Petey's, like if he goes on and is like an artist of like the generation and, if he has like staying power, like we've been fans of his since, the beginning of the beginning. Are we gonna be this way, or like all these assholes? They don't get it. They're just watching them on the metaverse. They don't understand. Is that gonna be us?
Back when we say like, you should have saw him when he was young and youthful. Now it's like, this. I mean,
I hope not.
Yeah, I hope
not. But honestly,
not.
It sounds kind of fun to be able to do that.
I was gonna say, Chris, are you sure about that?
Sounds pretty fucking fun.
I mean. You're gonna be like I was there.
Gatekeeping's kind of gas.
The secret's out, dude. We're just happy that everyone's accepted us for who, because we've made a really strong argument here. But like, I can't fucking wait to tell people that I was there.
It's gonna be great.
I
can't wait to just lie too and just be like, I was at all these festivals and.
Dude, they were good. Yeah, they were good at 2013. That was it. Like that was that hasn't been a good album since.
Exactly. It's
Lean Into Life.
So I'm glad. I think we're in agreement about that. Yeah, he sucked after Lean Into Life. It was terrible, just like Pearl Jam sucked after 10. But anyways, Rage Against the Machine. I'm gonna put you on the spot here. What is the first thing that you think of when you hear their music, or when you just think about the band? It's the first thing that comes to mind.
First thing I think of is the guitar. And then I think of Zach on vocals. Yeah. Those are the two main things that obviously come up. I think a lot of people would go with that. Bulls on Parade, Guitar Hero. Always think about that.
Oh yeah.
And again, I think I've said this on here, and I also think about how my brother. Now that I think about it, it's also not that much. Their whole discography, because it's only like 4 albums.
I think it's 3 original albums and a cover album, basically. So.
Yeah, but maybe back then, like back when I first got it in 2013, I feel like. Maybe music was like bigger because I thought it was like gigabytes on gigabytes. Like maybe it's a lot smaller now and it's actually only like 2 gigabytes of music. But no, I get. And then also when I was listening to them today, they come off to me as obviously they got this. They come off to me as like the ultimate kind of garage rock band in the way. Like I hear them jamming and I hear the guitar stuff and Tom's doing a lot and filling a lot of space, and then you have the drums come in and it's a 4-piece and they're doing a lot and making a lot of different sounds and filling up a lot of space, and it sounds like it was done in a barn. Like we used to play in a barn and stuff.
Like,
and
it just sounds music from a room,
yeah, okay. Music from a room and kind of echoey and like everybody's doing what they can to fill out. Like a lot of space, and then Zach comes in and he's doing a lot with his vocals as like its own instrument, and not necessarily worried about beautiful singing and stuff. And there's more rage behind. Like they're like playing like with intensity because they want to get out of the barn type of stuff. And their music is really fun to play. Like it's fun to get like jam with and try to like replicate and stuff, and
100%
because you can get away with a lot of stuff. It's fuzzy, it's got that
it's got an edge to it,
new metal to it. So how about you, Chris? What's the first thing you think of?
First and foremost, when I think of the band, I just think of being in the weight room. I love listening to Rage Against the Machine when I lift. I love, it's such a good companion for like moments where you need some intensity and you just, you need to kind of get in there a little bit. So that's the first thing that I think of. I think I mirror exactly what your thoughts are in terms of the sound. I always think of Morello's guitar. I also think of Brad Wilk's drumming, and like for me with the band, like when I listen to them, when I listen to the drumming for me is what really gets my mind to enter through that gateway of really kind of noticing and appreciating just how diverse their influences were and how many different styles that they bring together. Because it's like you listen to a lot of the stuff that they do and like there's a lot of funk influence there. There's almost like sometimes there's almost like a disco-y feel to like the drums and everything. And like all of a sudden it just turns on a dime, and then it just becomes this like heavy metal thing that's like straight out of like a Black Sabbath record. And it's like they go back and forth. And I just think of like, I think there's not much company for bands that I think can like manufacture this much emotion and intensity, in a room, as you said. So, I think about that, and as being the fan of lyrics and people using music and lyrics and words to share messages. I always think about that too.
Of course.
And then the ironic point that a lot of people might listen to Rage and either not understand what they're saying or not realize they're saying what they're saying, and then all of a sudden, like 20 years later, they're like, "Oh my God!" Like I can't believe they, But
I mean, that
like
was me for sure.
Yeah,
because I heard him in the weight room first, and a lot of stuff, and like. You're just getting jacked up on the guitar and screaming and stuff.
Because like in that environment, you're not going to sit down and listen to the verse and what Zach's saying and Wake Up, for example. But it's just it's really. I mean, one thing about Rage, like you can never knock the intensity, and you can never knock the consistency of where they come from, which I think is really honorable. But I mean, this is the one thing, the blind spot for both of us, because we weren't there, obviously. But I mean, just like how innovative and revolutionary they were in a way that I think they combined genres to form something that hadn't really existed, really prior to them. I mean, obviously the vocal delivery, there's a lot of hip hop influences in there too, which I think is really cool. Which, just to wrap up this tangent, it kind of makes me think about our conversation that we had with Yellow Trash Can, where it's like you're using all these different color palettes, and you're drawing from these different genres and these different bands as influences, but you're not recreating them in a recognizable way, but the influences are there. And I think that's something that's really cool that Rage did, and I think they spawned a lot of people who wanted to create music in that image, and you had a scene develop from there.
Well, I was about to say, that was my next question: is are we to thank? Should we be thanking Rage for new metal? I don't know if you're thankful for new metal, Chris, but like, were they the pioneers?
Question, are we thankful for new metal?
I love me some good new metal. Do I go to it always? No.
Yeah.
I haven't in a while. I haven't all the time, but like, the Linkin Park, and I don't know, I think of now I'm blanking. Incubus isn't quite new metal, but I think about them a lot. They have an incredible vocalist, an incredible drummer, and they kind of do some things cool. They're not quite new, but all that, I don't know, early 2000s rock that has the
Well, I think so for me, my stop on the train line is a couple of stops before the new metal town. So I don't know if I could really answer that part, but I do think Rage is one of those bands that the more time that passes between their first couple of albums, or their earlier classic era, whatever you want to call it, the greater people are realizing the influence that they had on the music that was to come. And I think they are to thank for a lot of musical trends that we saw. And I mean, Morello in and of himself, in terms of how he played the guitar, and the things that he was able to do, and just like manipulating that instrument and his setup and his gear to get different sounds that a lot of people didn't get from guitars before him. I think there's a lot of that going on. And yeah, you know what? I think they are, they are the forefathers of a lot of those things, because I mean, I think of Linkin Park, that's probably really the only band that would like inhabit that new metal zone in a way that I have some familiarity with, for sure. And yeah, there's a lot. I mean, just like the rock music with like spoken word, hip hop style delivery, into these big choruses, and it like the back and forth there, and there's such complementary parts. I mean, that's why, that when that first album came out in 92, the self-titled, I mean, how much of a, shift in style that, that was at the time.
And that had a
November 92, you think of the bands and the music that was top in the charts then. I mean, this is not like any of that.
And that had quite the set list, or quite the track list.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, that one
Bomb Track to start.
another killer like debut album. Like these guys come off, and I was actually thinking about this. If I were to, you know, start a band, like and like really go for it, like I feel like I'd want to like, you know, get up enough songs to make 2 albums, like right off the jump, because so much good comes out of that first like trying to make something happen. It would be really difficult and you'd have to go a long time, because every time it seems like you have that first album that just like absolutely slays, and maybe that's why they have the opportunity to make more albums and stuff, because you got Bomb Child, Killing in the Name of, Fistful of Steel, Freedom,
Your Enemy, Wake Up. I mean, like, there's not one skippable track on here.
They literally like all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, I know all of Rage's, like you really know their whole their tracks.
They're all notable in their own way, and there's no filler, and there is a lot of diversity, you know, within their albums, but it's still under that umbrella that they created because it didn't exist before them. Like that sound didn't really exist as they presented it, but you know, it all fits underneath that so that you know it is. But I like what you were saying about you know, that first album, and you know how, you know, you could almost make 2 albums worth of material so you capture that feeling. I mean, that's exactly what we spoke about you know, when we talked about Verses with Pearl Jam, of how Eddie Vedder struggled you know, to follow up and to kind of get back to her right from that place that he was writing during 10. I think there's a lot of that, but I mean, I think with Rage, a lot of their emotion behind it, you know, it was kind of, you look at Pearl Jam, for example, with 10 and Verses, especially 10, a lot of that music and the lyrics were coming, you know, from inside Eddie Vedder. He was looking inward. And I think Rage and Zach, you know, he's always looked outward to the world, and, you know, his lyrics and where at least the words come from, you know, it's always been a form of social commentary. And obviously there's always things to comment on, and there's always a view to, you know, to take in and to share.
Yeah, it definitely kind of continues fueling when using outside, you know.
And you can see that throughout their, you know, progression. I mean, 92, I mean, that's hot off the heels of Rodney King, and then you get to the later part of the decade, and you know, they're singing about contemporary issues of the time in 99 on the Battle of LA. And you know, I think it's one thing that he's never been afraid to be aggressive and be explicitly state how he thinks about things and what he perceives to be a lot of the issues. I wrote a note. I was like, it's his aggression and total not give a fuckery that makes him special, which that's not a word, but as far as I'm concerned, I mean, that's basically how I would express it. And you sent me that cool video earlier of that they were playing Killing in the Name of on BBC Radio live in the studio. It was under the one condition that he wouldn't curse. So then when he gets to the end of Killing in the Name of, when he's whispering, he doesn't say the fuck you part. He's like, I won't do what you tell me. I won't do what you tell me. And then when it drops, he pops in with the birds flying and starts screaming, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. And, you know, they have to cut away because we can't curse on the radio. You know what? We can curse on the Grunge Bible podcast. That was cool as fuck.
That's right. And it came up the other day. The other day I was getting a haircut, and every once in a while I've seen there's a shift in like the way people, you know, play music in their businesses and whatnot, because usually you know, you have there's like a corporate playlist, like there's different,
or like you have the clean playlist
basically, well, there's like other platforms other than Spotify. There's like, you know, Noise, I don't know, there's different platforms that are for licensed, you know, stuff,
right,
that to be, you know, they pay for it differently.
There's even companies that have like their own, like Dunkin' Donuts, for example. Like if you go into one of their, they have Dunkin' Radio, like complete
Chipotle
with like an
radio
anchor and shit. It's fucked up. Awful.
Yeah, so
imagine being the anchor for Dunkin' Radio.
America runs on Dunkin', baby.
You're damn right it does.
So like, but a lot of, you know, the maybe more individualized companies or smaller companies, you know, they'll just play Spotify, or they certain weight rooms, they play Spotify, and you know, usually people just put on playlists and it's uncensored because if you don't change anything. Yeah. So I love when I'm in there and I hear Rage come on. I'm like, okay, like I wonder how edgy this store is. I'm getting my hair cut, and like sure enough, Killing in the Name of comes on, and you know, the F word is just, you know, flying in the background. Yeah, at the end, it gets to the end, it's like, fuck you, I won't do it, you tell me, and it's just going, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm getting my hair cut in this in this area. Like
it's like a very leisurely activity.
Yeah, and I'm like, there could be kids in here, and like, but and once a song coming, I mean, it's always weird when you like run over to change it too. Like you almost got to commit to it. You commit to it all.
Absolutely. You just have to own it at that point. But yeah, I think Rage has always been one of those bands that I think their music, because the way that it presents itself sonically, I mean, it's goes hard. It's awesome. It's really cool. That opens the door to it being utilized in environments where maybe the message is not one that would be welcomed by those in that environment or appreciated by those attending that environment. And I think, with the big tour that I think they had originally scheduled for 2020 that got postponed, and then they started it, then they had to cancel it. But I mean, they went back into the public limelight, and people are same thing with Pearl Jam. There's like that rediscovery of these bands and their political alignments or their social messaging. And it's always interesting just to like, for me, because that's like one of the first things that I know is just because of my obsession with lyrics. And it's always funny when people are like, they're just coming on board to it. But that is funny. But I'll getting a haircut and Rage is playing. I love that. Must have been the most intense haircut. But I have to say, like, we've had some shared experiences for. Yeah,
that's where I was going to next.
Because that's one thing. Like when Rage comes on in an environment where it should be played, nothing hits the spot quite like it. Like if you're getting on the bar for like a 1 rep max back squat, or like shit's hitting the fan, or you got a tough workout. I mean, Rage is where I go most of the time.
And if you don't, I'll set the scene here. I don't really know if we've told this story on the pod before. I feel like I have recently talked about it, but I'm not sure. Have we?
Yeah, I don't remember. We've definitely spoken about it.
Yeah.
But
so like, imagine
we lived
24 fall of 2014, right?
Yep.
And we had an early Friday morning workout. We'd always get there at 6 a.m. It's called the Kettlebell Mile, and the reason that
absolutely abysmal. It was awful.
Yeah, so you want to explain the Kettlebell Mile real quick?
Yeah, I'll explain it. So basically, depending on so this was during preseason for track and field, and we were both throwers. Ethan Stilley's very good javelin thrower. I was a shitty hammer thrower. So we show up, and during preseason, a lot of it is conditioning, athletic development.
But we didn't know that back then. We didn't know how our careers would unfold. So we were in the same spot.
So we don't know what's going on,
which is important.
Right, very important. So we show up, and there was the big legend in the program that like we always had this hard workout on Friday mornings. It was the end of the week, and our coach, he loved to hit us hard. Chip Brundage, what a great guy, loved to hit us hard. So like we show up, and we were introduced to this thing called the Kettlebell Mile, which is essentially a timed mile worth of sprints divided up by however long your field length is. So I think at the time we were on an 80-yard field, so we did a 160-yard sprint, so 80 down and back. And then instead of resting when you got to the end of your sprint, you would have to do a kettlebell exercise, and you were time limited. And if you if you didn't complete it in the time limit, you had to do it again.
Well, you didn't, and if you'd finish. It was like every 1 minute you'd start your sprint. So if you got back and finished your exercise in 45 seconds, you'd have 15 seconds.
You got some rest. But if you're dogging it, you have no rest. And then you could go in the red where like you're bleeding into your next sprint's time. And then, it's just a mess.
And the important part about all of this, like I said, me and Chris were freshman, sophomore, respectively. And we had just got there, and we had big plans. We had big ideas of everything. Oh, yeah. And we also had our leader, Chip Brundage, who had big plans as well, but we had an administration that didn't have big plans for us. And so we were pretty pissed off, and we were kind of bred by Chip, because the throwers is kind of like,
there's a lot of tribalism there. And, I mean, we're generally speaking disrespected.
As far as track programs go, you got your sprinters, you got your jumpers, you got your distance runners, and they're all kind of glamorous. And then you got your throwers, and depending on the school, like, it is definitely where the money is not allocated.
Yeah, correctly. Depending on the school, depending on the head coach.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of politics that goes in, and our throws coach fought for us all the time. And he said, guys, like, basically it's us versus them. It's 5 against 1 here.
Yeah. He's like, if we don't fight, they're gonna take away our facility, which is like taking away your oxygen.
Yeah,
like they had other plans for it.
And if we want to argue, we need to have results. Like we need to be good, and like there was a big. Like there was a big bond that we had of like, we had to fucking prove ourselves. We had to throw it in their face and stuff. Like it was like our own administration. Like we were fighting them, and go to the end of the story. We both transferred. Everybody transferred, and our coach left at the end of that year because we didn't get any kind of
we were respect. Crushed. We were crushed by the powers that be.
So this was always this is always on our mind because Chip he was always telling us this stuff.
Like we're fighting for the survival of our program here.
I mean, like the saying that I love is we were ready to run into hell with a water gun. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We were ready to take on anything. Yeah. So we're doing the exercise and we're getting to the end of it. It's tough, like the last couple sprints, and
the weathers are always terrible. It's always raining. It's cold. A couple times it snowed. And,
it's like close to Christmas. I mean, it's cold, whatever, and Rage comes on, and Chip's as we're like running. Chip's yelling behind us. He's like telling us, all the shit, firing us up about the season and everything, and all of a sudden, it's fuck you, won't do what you tell me, and just going, and we're just like, oh my gosh, I will always remember it. It fired me up so much.
Yeah, that was great. I remember, and I think after that point, like we made a point to somebody had a speaker or something we would bring in, and we would play Rage Against the Machine for the Kettlebell Mile because of that, and it was just like one of those things. And I mean, that's right at the crux of the anti-establishment message that Rage had been known for so long. And it's like one of those things that it's empowering. It's like, hey, like, the deck oftentimes is stacked against you, but it's nothing wrong with, putting a little fight up against it and ruffling some feathers. And, maybe sometimes it's better to not do things the right way. You gotta get a little rough around the edges and get into the mix and, piss some people off, get what you need, get what you deserve. And that was an early experience for me too. That bonded me fast to my music, my brothers in action, and also to the music. I'll never forget that. That's for sure.
No, I'll never forget it. It's so good. And it definitely kind of like, when I think of the music, of course they're talking about a lot of political stuff, but if you apply it to our lives, I felt like I always apply it to that time when we were trying to get out of Pittsburgh and get out and have new opportunities. And we were, we apply Release and Pearl Jam. We apply all that stuff to our personal life, not whatever the artist chose. So
yeah, absolutely.
Another thing before we get into kind of like where they broke up and created a few different projects that we'll obviously bring up. I just want to say that I love Rage. When you're in the mood for Rage, and we kind of talked about this on the last the Q&A with Drew, where certain bands have, like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, they have that's a sound. When you say their name, they have a sound. Rage is the same way. But what Rage does really well is I feel like you can, if you're in the mood for Rage, you can shuffle everything that they have, and every song will kind of hit with the same intensity and give you kind of what you were looking for. You don't need to skip things. They're all kind of they all kind of do it really good justice, and I just think that's well done by them.
Yeah, I mean, they're, like you said, they're consistent. They're complete, and the complete nature and the consistency of their talents and their ability to cut a record. Yeah. It's one of those things, because for me, for example, I mean, no skips on the self-titled. I love the Battle of LA. I don't really love the Evil Empire record, but it's like you said, you can shuffle it, and they're one of the few artists that I will shuffle sometimes, because I know, and I love that cover album they did, Renegades, that they released in 2000. It's one of those things
did that so well.
There's 3 songs on there. Kick Out the Jams by MC5, The Ghost of Tom Joad by Bruce Springsteen, and Maggie's Farm by Bob Dylan. In my opinion, Rage's version of all 3 of those songs is better than the one that was recorded by the writer of the song. And especially coming from me as the Springsteen fan that I am, that's a big thing. But I remember I knew Springsteen's version, and then you hear Rage's version, and it just it completely blew my mind. But Rage had the ability to do that. It's they still do that. I mean, I saw a video of the tour, the tour legs that they did earlier this year, and they sound great. Zach sounds great. The band sounds tight as ever, and it's I've definitely mentioned it before, but Eddie Vedder had a quote once where he's like, you can't mail a song like Jeremy in every night. Like, people are going to know. You can't mail any of this shit in when you're Rage Against you. Like Zach, none of the guys, Morel, like Comerford, you cannot mail a single note of this shit in when you perform live, especially after how long people had been anticipating this tour for.
Yeah.
And I know
everything
people,
that's going on that they're singing for.
And now is the time. And I know some people, I've spoken to some people that went and, top notch, really, really good. And it's one of those things that it's not just the nostalgia factor, I think, because they're still doing it to this day. They chose to come back and do it, and it's still just as good, which is always fucking insane when people can do the things and, generate the same emotions out of people that they did 30 years ago. I mean, that's not, I can't imagine that's an easy thing to do.
No. Yeah, that album, I like Renegades of Funk too. I love that song.
Yep, absolutely.
And just that album, I to do a cover album is difficult, but like they were,
well, let's be honest, a lot of cover albums suck.
Yeah, and they were smart enough to, change a little bit, and they were good enough to add their own flair, and like they just did it really well. Like they attacked covers the way they should be attacked. They changed them up a little bit, but they didn't do too much, and their talent was able to make the songs their own and their sound. So bravo to them. That's a really good one. And then they kind of, obviously, when they went on their separate ways and Zach went to do some solo stuff, which I want to talk about. I don't know if you know much about his solo stuff, but I
don't know much about it. I mean, my post Rage understanding
everybody goes
to Prophets of Rage and Audioslave, especially Audioslave.
I'll say everybody knows Audioslave, obviously, because I mean, who doesn't love Audioslave? Yeah.
I will say, Ethan, if you haven't, and anyone out there, if you haven't watched these, it must have been Audioslave's like 05 tour, maybe around that time. They started performing some Rage Against the Machine songs. So there's videos of Chris Cornell singing "Sleep Now in the Fire" and "Killing in the Name of," and it was just, I remember the first time I saw Chris sing "Killing in the Name of," it just felt so strange because Zach is such a central figure and such a notable and just attention grabbing figure that it was really strange. It was really, really strange.
And it's funny because we're talking about Chris Cornell, who
exactly. That's the thing. We're not talking about, without being too presumptuous, we're not talking about somebody else, but we're talking about Chris Cornell, and I was still like this is cool, but like I don't think this is it. You just can't do it sometimes. So, but yeah, Ethan, please educate me on Zach De La Rocha post.
Well, he went off and he released. Okay, so he teamed up with John Theodore, who is the drummer. We actually saw him in L.A. He's a drummer for Queens of the Stone Age and Mars Volta, and he played a little bit. And they had a project, One Day as a Lion, and so it's a 2-piece, and it's like a little bit more electronic. They were doing kind of stuff with some heavy drums behind it, and I remember my brother showed, was like, yeah, like Zach has some other stuff, because I was really drawn to Zach and like his singing and stuff. I mean, I Prophets of Rage and stuff is really good, but I think his voice I just really enjoyed. So he just had that project that was it's not that big. It's like small, like 8 tracks on it, but it was kind of cool. I didn't really know that John Theodore was with him. Doing that. And then he released a song called Digging for Windows. It's like just a solo track that is pretty good. Like I said, it's like electronic metal.
Yeah.
I guess it's new metal. But it's pretty solid stuff too that a lot of people don't go and listen to. But if you're really into Zach stuff, it's just a good extension of just hearing him sing a little bit more. But it is really cool. I'm obviously really happy they came back and they're performing and stuff. It'd be cool to go see them.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of those things. Yeah, like as most people probably, I thought about trying to get tickets to go, but I think the closest one for me was New York City, and financially and scheduling wise, it was a decision that I chose to to pass up on. But I hope it's not the last of it. I know they just had to cancel part of the European tour because of Zach's health. So that injury that he suffered and everything. So, but hopefully we'll get some more of that, because that'd be really cool. I always, it's always hard to say, if it's going to carry the same amount of gusto, and people seem to have felt that it did, and that it still does, which is really cool, and an amazing accomplishment. But if you had to pick like one or two or three of your favorite Rage songs, do you know what they would be?
Well, I really do like Freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Freedom, Bullet in Your Head, and I don't know, Bulls on Parade is really it's always a fun song to listen to.
That song, I listened to that song. I listened to Bulls on Parade the first time I squatted 450 pounds.
Really?
Yeah, 2016. I don't know why I remember that, but
yeah, that is good.
Not a big deal.
Oh yeah, I think I'd say Freedom. Freedom might be like one of my favorites. Like I said, Bullet in Your Head is really good. But I don't know. I really do like that, like Renegades of Funk. I know it's a cover and stuff, or they do a cover of.
It's all on the table.
Like Bombs Over Baghdad, I think is a cover as well. That one's like really pretty cool. So yeah, I'd say those five. I mean, there's plenty. But how about you? Do you have a few that really stick out?
I definitely love Know Your Enemy from the first record, and you have Maynard providing a little guest spot there on the bridge, which is completely electric. That's the thing. There's so much to Rage that you forget about Maynard, James Keenan.
They're one of the more connected bands. I mean, like when you talk about the Audio Slave, the Prophets, and Rage, like those three projects and their reach. And then all of a sudden, they are pretty big.
Yeah, and Rage and Tool, I mean, they're all friendly and everything, but that's one of my favorites. I love that one. I would say that I think from the Battle of LA, the opening track, Testify.
Testify is great, yeah.
Far and away, I think that might be my favorite Rage song, at least it is right now. I don't know, just like for album openers, I mean, it's hard to... It's so good. It's so fucking good. But also, I really love from that same album, I love Born of a Broken Man. Mm-hmm. That one's really, really awesome. It's kind of like bigger and ballady almost, but I really love that one. And then the covers from the Renegades album that I mentioned, particularly The Ghost of Tom Joad. But it's one of those things that sometimes I skip over and I forget about some Rage songs because you hyperfixate on some of the other ones, and the Battle of Los Angeles' anniversary was not too long ago on November 2nd, and I listened to that one front to back a few times that day, and while I was lifting, and you kind of remind you're like, holy shit, like there's some good stuff in here that I forgot about. Like I forgot about Born of a Broken Man, and it's
dude, there's a lot of gems. Yeah, there really are a lot of gems in there.
So many hidden gems. They're not really hidden. They're right there for us, but. Yeah, man, it was about time that we had a little Rage Against the Machine discussion.
Yeah, they are a staple. They're a rock and roll staple. I know that they, were on the ballot the first year for Hall of Fame for like 4 years.
I think they're like 0 for 4 on the ballot.
Yeah, right, which is crazy.
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame sucks.
It's bullshit. Yeah,
it's such bullshit.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think that they deserve. I mean, they will be remembered. They're deserving, and they're unique. There's a lot of reasons why, they will be remembered. I mean, they did a great job. They still are,
Right on.
Happy for it. So, if you're still listening, thank you very much. Thanks for spending time with us this Monday. We had a blast, obviously.
Yeah.
This was good. If you're thinking about supporting us, you can do that in a lot of ways. We talked about it before, but please continue listening, share, help us with the algorithm, get it in other people's faces. And
reach out to us privately so we can upgrade our microphones if you're a particularly generous donor.
Oh, yeah. That would be amazing. I mean...
Well, it's cool. There's a couple things at play. It's like we can upgrade our microphones. We could also, if we get a few more additions to the Patreon, it's about time we get Drew that raise that we've been dangling over his head for a little while. But we need some more support to make that happen. So if you don't want to do it for us, you do it for Drew.
Do it for Drew. He
needs a raise. He's been working hard.
The holidays are coming, and this man, he needs to get home to his family, and there's only one way that he's going to do that, and that's, through working for us. And we just can't. We just need that. We need some extra dough for him. Yeah. So
it's like we said, it's not a big deal. You do what needs to be done.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. You guys have been listening. We've had some people, people have been joining back again. We had a cold streak, and thank God that's over.
Yeah, but now we're kind of warming up again. But it's kind of like, how at the beginning you referenced that meme of like you get an extra hour of sleep, and I get like darkness at 3:30 p.m. And that's a bad trade, right? We don't like that trade. But you think of it this way: you give us $2, $5, or $10, and you get 4 to 6 hours of good content per month.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good trade.
On top of just in general. Encouraging us and you to continue posting all the time.
Exactly.
Let's be real. Let's not forget that there's a lot of posts that happen every day that
and here's the thing, like,
everybody's thankful for. Let's just
exactly and
what could we do without it?
Here's the thing with the Patreon. Let's just cap it like an hour, like 4 episodes a month, an hour an episode, so that's 4 hours of content. You could pay us as little as 50 cents an hour. Or you could pay us at most $2.50 an hour. Nobody works for that cheap. Nobody, but we do.
Drew does. We don't even. Yeah, Drew, work for free.
Drew works for even cheaper. No, we take good care of Drew. All of our money. That's where the money goes. That's the thing.
It all goes.
Like, politicians always love to ask, like, "Oh, where's all this money going?" Well, where's all this money going? It's going to Drew McFadden. So that's just the way that it goes. But if you want to employ us for.
It's crazy. We promised
50 cents and $2.50 an hour.
And what's crazy? Like, we promised not to raise our prices. We never will.
That's the thing. Inflation is through the roof right now. Inflation's 9%.
And we're in the middle, Chris, because we're not going to raise our prices, but Drew is raising his. So
exactly.
What are we supposed to do?
This is how small businesses like ours die.
Yeah.
We're getting crushed.
We're in the middle. We're not. What's going on here? So
help us out a little bit. I like to think at this point, 86 episodes in, certainly if you're still listening, I'd like to think that we've helped you a little bit and we've added some value to your life, because that's what we're trying to do. So you show some support. We'll be doing this for much longer.
Yep, and if you have a small business out there that is looking for some advertising, reach out to us and we could set something up, because we got the
I protect my home with Simply Safe. Use code Grunge Bible for 2% off.
Jeez, I wish,
Yeah, man. No, we already made fun of Simply Safe last week, so we can't do that again.
They just got 2 free ads.
Yeah, fuck. We're not running a good business. We're giving free airspace.
All we're doing is the machine, man.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so let's do songs of the week, and then we can be done.
Yeah, let's. You want to go first?
I will. I'll go first.
Okay.
And I'm actually going to go for a song that I did talk about, Zach De La Rocha's single, "Digging for Windows."
That's sick.
It's solid. It has this like really heavy like heartbeat behind it, like the burr, 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 and then he's just kind of like singing over top of it, and it's definitely like, if I know we talk about lifting a lot, but it's just so relatable for us. But if I got something that I'm really, dreading and I need to get hyped up for, you could listen to it while you're in the trenches, but that drive over, I'm going to put that song on and kind of let it like slowly build me up to, putting on the rest of Rage, basically. So Digging for Windows.
Get your mind right.
And that's like his only single. Everything, it's like the only one.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know if he was gonna, release something and he never did, or he just went to the other projects he had. But
yeah.
All right, your turn, Chris.
Yeah, man. I had a few in contention, but based off of recent experiences, I'm gonna go back to The Well. It is a well that we've drawn a lot of volume from. Today, last week, well, I guess by the time this comes out, it'll be a couple of weeks ago, but I saw Petey for the second time, and it was so fucking awesome. So the first time we saw him, he was an opener. So like everybody was there for Manchester Orchestra. Why? I'm not entirely sure, but that's who they were there for. But I went to Petey, headliner. Everybody was there for Petey. It was this like small little club in Cambridge, Massachusetts called the Middle East Downstairs, and it was fucking awesome. It was so fucking cool. I went up there with two of my friends. We met up with top level Patreon supporter Rachel Corning, who saved our lives in more ways than one. That day, forever in your debt there.
Shout out to Rachel, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was big time. Needed. I
loved hearing that story, by the way.
Yeah, it was huge. So it all worked out, and it was just one of those things where an artist that there's not many artists that like I pretty much like know all of their songs inside and out. Like I know all the words. And it was like we were like right up at the front too. So it was so fucking cool. And I had to just consult which of his songs are already on the Songs of the Week playlist. And there's a lot of them. But I don't believe Apple TV Remote is on there. So I want to put that one on there.
Hell yeah.
Just because. But yeah, man, it was super fucking cool. The crowd was, it was one of those shows. Like, I don't know if you have this distinction in your head, Ethan, but you go to a show and it's like either a bad show or a good show, right? Like the performance is either bad or it's good. Yeah. But for me, it's like, there's bad. If it's bad, it's bad. If it's good, it's good. But if it's good, it can also be fun. And like this show was fucking good and it was fun. It was so much fun.
That's a good way to put it.
Those are the best kind of shows. And similarly, today we're sitting here. It's the 9th of November, and Jerry Cantrell just announced the Brighton tour is coming back again.
We are back.
We're gonna have to do like 3-hour emergency podcast on that because we're gonna run it back. But that's the same thing that I had that thought. Like that Jerry Cantrell show, like it was so good musically, but it was so much fun too. And like those, you can't ask for a better night. And I couldn't have asked for a better night at the Petey show. Up there in Cambridge. So yeah,
have you ever been to a bad fun show? A fun bad show?
Oh man, I don't think so. I think if it's bad, it's just bad. Although, okay, here's the thing.
I mean, if you bring in the Manchester Orchestra other things,
I didn't enjoy it, but it was bad, but it was fun.
Yeah, there you go.
Like it was fun because I was with you, and we both recognized that for us it was bad, but we were together and having a good time, so that made it fun.
Yeah. There's some times where maybe you're not going there for the music. You're just going there to hang out, and the music sucks, but you still have a good time.
Yeah, but yeah, man, this show was great. You go to the show, meet up with some friends. All the friends get together. They become friends. You go out for some libations afterwards, and just have a nice evening. It was great.
Crash,
yeah. Spent lots of money. It was money well spent.
That's right. That's exactly right.
That's the way it goes.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up episode 86 of the Grunge Bible Podcast. Rage Against the Machine. That's the overview. Maybe we'll give some more in-depth album reviews at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe go back into it. But another successful episode. It was fun, Chris. Great work.
Yeah, man. Really happy about this. So just to close, my final thought. We rang it in your ear all spring and summer. And now there's no more messing around. By the time this podcast comes out, the Jerry Cantrell Brighton pre-sale and general sale will have occurred. So don't fuck around. Buy your tickets. There's like 26 shows. So chances are you can make that move. I already bought my ticket before we started this show recording.
Did you?
Yeah, I'm in, dude. I'm locked in.
I did see this one. He's in Providence, right?
He's in Providence. 5 minutes from my house. You can't beat that.
Fucking real. What's the date on that?
It's like March 14th. You in?
I'm there.
Yeah,
I have something for you.
I have something for you.
I have something for you.
So don't fuck around. I'm tired of everybody fucking around with this. Like you got to see him on this tour.
That's right.
Yeah. But that's all I got. I'll see you. I love it. See you all this time next week, huh?
See you knuckleheads tomorrow. Next
Good night,
Monday.
Canada.
Same place, same time. Good night, Canada.
Take care, everybody.